for the Chattanooga City Council, March 17th, 2026. Can I get a motion on our minutes from the 3rd of March, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we are going to let the minutes stand without objection. Thanks, everybody. Okay, we have a lot of council business to work on today. So let's go ahead and start with Phil.
Yes,
Giving
ma'am.
us some updates on special exceptions permits, what our options are here. Looks like you've got some things to pass out.
I do. Karen has been very nice about making copies for everyone here.
Thank
of
you.
What types of things she thought would be something for us to discuss here regarding the strategic planning aspect of liquor stores.
Yes.
And y'all, last time around, were saying that you might want to deal with some other items here that are not necessarily special exceptions, but things that you might want to consider that the planning agency would bring to you as opposed to just making a decision itself. Because as you remember, the provisions for special exceptions in the code is, I guess, was not there. So we were trying to make sure at least there is a requirement in a just a setting that we had for locations in the city for liquor stores to have some type of action by the council. But that's really the only reference that there was in the code. This handout that I've given you is what was looked at in connection with the one, I guess, case that you had before you last week here. And these are the types of items that were included on that list. And I guess the question becomes, do you need to have any other items that you want to look for in an area regarding a liquor store, and whether you think that that would be something that would be compliant with the, I guess, the public safety in an area here? What types of offenses would you like to look at in connection with those cases? So we got drug offenses, theft offenses here included last time around. And some of those are, and some of them are not related to liquor store operations. So that's the question about what would you like to have in
Yeah,
addition.
so council, just a reminder, as a council, we have agreed that we do want to maintain the requirement of council approving certain types of uses through special exceptions permits. And so our goal with this conversation and what Phil has been researching is how might we strengthen this so that it is less susceptible to being challenged successfully in a court of law.
Yes.
We want this to be a stronger. So Phil, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is, here's a whole list of different things that we might add to our requirements for the review.
Yes.
A lot of those that Councilwoman Dotley had done research on for one that came in District 7. So is this kind of a talk through that and maybe check the boxes on
Do
some
a
of
check
these
the
that we
box
want?
on which ones
Okay.
you think are important, which ones not in the operation of a liquor store.
Okay.
The other things that we also discussed, we had a pretty lengthy discussion with the planning people and the police department folks yesterday here concerning this matter. And do you want to keep your spacing the way that you've got it? Because we reduced the spacing requirements down to just 200 feet. And does that 200 feet work with what you're looking for on here? We have other different types of establishments here in the city that have higher distance restrictions than that. But if you want to have that, the distance restrictions did not apply in the urban areas right downtown to begin with under the form-based code. If it was under the form-based code, those 500-foot restrictions were not applicable. But if you want to consider other areas, then that's possible. That it makes it easier to get your numbers, at least that you're looking at, about what is the crime like in the area. You have to be careful about going too large in size to the area as well, because if you do, you may be looking at other locations that may be completely away from the area you're trying to protect.
Okay.
So those are some of the things we were looking at.
And so as we strengthen our requirements for these types of applications, we can then use that as a pattern for others that we consider related to vape shops and things like that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right, Councilman Elliott.
When you're talking about spacing, are you talking about in between two of the same
Two of the same type of businesses or certain businesses that you think may need to have protection from that. The argument always comes out in the regard to schools, churches, and playground type areas for kids on there. So what do you have? And you know, we need to be at least looking about what is your desire as a council in protecting locations from areas here. And this is a little bit different than a bar too. You need to be aware of that, because normally, unless somebody is cracking open that half pint of whiskey when they go out of the liquor store, they're going to be taking that a little bit further away. But the question becomes, is that something in your community that can result in more crimes or more concerns for your public?
Councilman Henderson.
Well, two questions. One, Phil, what's the distance between, I believe in our, the pawn shop,
Yes.
what is,
I think it's 500. I was thinking 500. Did you say 1,000?
is it 1,000?
Alternative financial services, 10,000.
I know that adult-oriented establishments is 500 feet.
Okay.
For some reason, I was thinking that the pawn shops were a little bit further, which I thought if we've got an ordinance that already states that amount. I don't understand the difference on here. You said changing back to 500 feet spacing,
It's currently 200 feet.
but then you've also got change distance requirement between liquor stores at 1,000, so you're saying the options are returning back to 500, or it could be 1,000 feet.
It could be, depending on what y'all think would be appropriate.
And
So
that's
we've got more and more distance requirement.
Yes.
Where right now we're at 200, we could go back to 500.
or 1,000, depending on, I don't know why I thought the pawn shops were maybe 1,000, but
777, we could do any number.
Any number that is
let's pick some arbitrary number. So
That may be something arbitrary and capricious.
and capricious, we'll throw in capricious
What
too.
would be the most, no, just kidding.
If you make it where you can't have one in the entire city, sometimes that may be a problem if they're legally allowed under state law.
Well, let's face it, I need to be able to go to Jackson on my way home. I don't want to. We're trying to get rid of them. Not here in District 2, that's not what District 2 seat is for.
I'm looking for alternative financial
Or-
districts right now.
Yeah, so to clarify for that, alternative financial districts sounds like would include, or services would include pawn shops, check into cash.
Yes.
Which,
Well, and maybe that's what I'm
Predatory
referring to, is predatory lending, I said pawn shops, but I think it's more predatory lending, checking the cash and.
which I think was a
Those
really
things.
smart move on.
And then, are there any cities that do, a ratio, they cap it per capita? That we could,
Well, currently,
That we could lean
your
on.
ratio you have here in the city, based upon the most recent changes to liquor stores, is it not every 3,000 people here in the city? So we were counting that up. We were trying to make sure how many you would have your number capped at this point. And based on the current population, we believe that is roughly 60 liquor stores within the city of Chattanooga. And that number went up from, I think before it was limited to like 54 or so, but you actually have up to 60 liquor stores. If it's one per every 3,000 people,
now
it's
where
60.
is that figure coming from?
That comes from your current provisions in the chapter 5 of the city code, and it's 5109.
And how many do we have?
Catherine, what was your latest count?
All right, as of 2024, there were 42.
And the one per 3,000 would be a cap at, right now, 60?
Now, there's been additional ones since 2024.
Can we do both? Can we place a distance requirement and a per capita maximum? Can we do both?
You could, yes,
Sounds
sir.
like we already have that, right?
You do.
That's
In
how we
fi-
have it structured.
It's actually 5108 currently. It
Oh.
says a liquor store can be located within 200 feet from the nearest property line of a place that is a recreational park, place of worship, school, learning center, or daycare center, or other liquor stores.
We have that, plus we have the per capita.
But we already have the
Per capita as well. And your per capita limitation, where is it here? Yeah, it's under 5,126.
Yeah.
And it's limited to 1 per 3,000
Okay.
people in the city.
Okay.
So that's, both of those are in chapter 5 of the city code.
Okay.
Okay.
So really the only thing we're talking about amending then would be the distance
Okay.
requirement.
Right.
Do we have any, Councilwoman Dotley?
Yeah, so,
Okay, chat, you sent it in the chat. Okay.
okay, so for this, hopeful legislation, so when it goes through RPA, will they be adding that to the, when they give us the plan for it, or the, whatever the application, when they submit their, recommendation to us, recommend to approve or deny, is that something that will be in there, like, are these things, are they gonna be in that,
Should be in their packet
In the
for their
packet.
application. And that's
Okay.
the reason that you'd need to have an amendment here to the
Okay.
section here under liquor stores here to actually say that whenever you're submitting your application, it'll include something like this.
okay, and then that information also will then be shared with that business owner as well, to make them aware that, hey, just be aware that these things are going on.
Correct.
Okay.
So with this, if I understand, Councilwoman, I think, legal is providing us, and planning is providing us with this list.
Okay.
This would be kind of all of the different things, and we could make some choices about, do we want all of them? What is the if-then, so that we can be as specific as possible. Like, for example, when I see Plan Chattanooga, like, it has to be in accordance with that, would be one of the yes, like, if
Yes.
you're not, then, you know what I mean?
Right, so it's a clear,
If you have code violations, then don't even come to us until
Right.
you're in compliance,
get that
you know?
together,
But
right.
then these numbers might be a little trickier, is kind of what I see, like, we
Okay.
need some specifics, I would think.
so we need to put like a time frame on it, like, so in the last, for the one I just did, it was in the last year,
Right.
within a 1 mile radius, this is what I was
Half-mile
looking for,
radius
half
of
mile,
yours.
yeah,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
this is the thing I was looking for. So is that something, that's how we, is that what we're trying to do, is that kind of
I think
thing?
that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so that then we would be able to say, look, not within a half-mile radius, if you exceed X threshold, this is not if you exceed the average crime rate in
Right,
the city, this is not an appropriate
Okay.
location. Like, the more we dial it in, right?
Right.
Yes.
The tighter we get, the more specific
right,
and less subjective.
right, because
Less
it's,
subjective is better.
right, because the idea is not, we're not looking at your individual, we are looking at your individual business, but we're looking at your individual business in perspective to the entire community, because our goal is community, and to look at that, so that's, okay. I just want to make sure I was kind of level setting what I was
And
thinking.
Karen's concern on some things on there is if you have it too wide on there, you may be involving other communities on here. Do you want to get into a situation where it's an area that is completely different from the community you're trying to protect? And I don't know.
Okay,
Alternative financial services, she just sent that to me on here. It says no alternative financial service may be located within 1,320 feet of an existing alternative financial service.
Love it.
From lot line to lot line, and then it can't be within 500 feet of a residential zone measured from lot line. So we did that from residential areas and then from other existing alternate financial services.
If I remember, I think that the Mayor's Council for Women did a lot of work on that, and we can also thank Councilwoman Dr. Carol Burrs for her strong work on
What was
this.
that, 13 what?
1,320.
oh, okay.
Oh, way to know how many feet are in a mile.
Right.
Okay, Councilwoman Burrs.
So on this list, does it include, should we include other businesses in the area with similar offenses? Would it include that?
But
So like the business across the street has checked these boxes, so can we use that as,
well, I mean, it's gonna be including them if it's within that distance. here.
Okay.
And that depends on, how large of a distance you include. If you have a half mile or a quarter mile, distance restriction on here, anything within that area would be on this list
Okay.
as the numbers of things that were in violation.
okay. And then that would include, like, if it was close to a residential community, residential properties that have had similar issues as well? Like
Yes.
repeated burglaries, or maybe it's a drug house, or maybe it's a,
Yeah,
Okay.
and the police department in doing this, they can make it as compact as you want on there. If you want like a heat signal showing how many of those things that might occur, or if you just simply want to show the numbers in an area here and the locations, they can do that.
Okay.
And it'll show them based upon those areas. And currently, the last page you have on there shows the liquor stores, at least that are marked out here in our GIS system that we had. And I don't know if that includes all 60, all
This-
40.
Surely this doesn't.
It doesn't look like it does to me.
It's about 40 on here.
Okay, about 40.
Yeah, I counted about 40, a little bit
But
over 40.
you're limited right now, based upon the most recent provisions in the code, to 60 total.
Okay.
So, council, in terms of next steps, might I suggest that each council person send your feedback to Phil?
Yes.
And Phil can get us a draft of a new ordinance, perhaps in the next 2 weeks.
Sure.
Okay.
So 2 weeks is, my calendar here.
31st.
Yep, the 31st, so please, send your feedback to Phil by the 31st. And then legal can work on, a draft of an ordinance for us to go ahead and put on the agenda. Does everybody feel comfortable going ahead and getting it on, future considerations? Okay. So Phil, maybe by middle of April, if we could be on future considerations, please?
We will. And those will be amendments to section 5108 here as to the requirements for liquor stores.
Okay, thank you very much, and once we get that tightened up, the world is our oyster. Yes, Councilman Harvey?
Is this something we can also include the smoke shops, vape shops, or is this something we want to work on separately?
I think you need to do that separately here
Okay.
Just
because,
get this one tightened up, and then we move on to vape shops.
Okay.
and some of the restrictions are under chapter 11 in the code here right now for business operations. And I believe that's where we had the provisions for alternative financial.
So a different part of the
locations.
code.
So a different part of the code. This is just simply the liquor part and beer part of the code.
Okay.
But you know what, I think it would make sense, if we could work on them in tandem though, so if you have feedback on vape and smoke shops, let's go ahead and send that also by the 31st, so that legal can draft that as well, we just might decide we wanna take a look at it.
Sure.
But if they both could end up on future consideration separately by mid-April, that would feel like we're making good progress, I think.
Okay.
Okay, and that will be reflected in the minutes, everybody, that Nicole is taking, so.
one more question.
Okay.
Madam Chair. So we will discuss this at the next strategic planning, so the first one in April. Is that,
No, my intent is that we would provide feedback to Phil by the 31st, and then
Okay.
he would take all of that, his department would take that and craft an ordinance that would go on
okay,
future
so
consideration.
the next step is the ordinance. Okay,
Correct,
gotcha.
so both for liquor stores, and then knowing that that would become the framework, then also for vape shops.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see, what's next on our agenda? We have a lot, and I'd really like us to be able to get to all of it if possible. Okay, 5-vote requirement, that we were discussing in the rules, the city council rules. Phil, did you have any recommendations for us on that?
Well, I definitely think that.
And if it's leave it, that's a great recommendation.
Okay, my recommendation is gonna be that it takes 5 votes for this body to, do anything as a body. So that would be my preference. If you're, going to have a situation where you don't have a 5-member, majority on a matter, then that is the reason that we have, language in there that says it would come up the following week, and try to get that, because it should be the action of the entire council, not just an action of a minority of your group. It should be the entire council that makes a decision, because you are the body.
Okay? Councilman Elliott?
Can you guys provide context again to what we're talking about? It's been a while since we've talked about this.
Yeah, Yeah, there was a question about whether you could do something without having the majority of the council make a ruling on an item or not on there.
So-
I'm
So
sorry.
the practical question is that we are able to meet when we have a quorum, and a quorum is 5 people. However, within our rules, based on our charter, you have to have 5 yes votes or 5 no votes to move anything up or down. So in the event that you have a quorum, but you don't have 5 agreeable votes, effectively, you can't do any business. Nothing can be moved forward. But it's a very rare occasion, and to Phil's point, better to have, his suggestion as attorney is better to have a full majority and just come back to it.
And that's currently in your rules that you just adopted here on February the 17th.
Right.
It'll take 5 yes or 5 no votes to adopt or defeat any action. So that's what you've got in your current procedures. And if for some reason there's not enough people, then you can come back the following week and try to see if you can get majority at that point in time. But that would normally be required, and that's the reason you got 9 members on your council, so that there is a number that would require a majority. And that's the reason most bodies usually have an odd number on there, so that it's not just an even number of people on there where you're deadlocked at all times.
We've only had, in my 5 years, we've only had it occur one time. So Councilman Elliott.
I'm gonna ask this question again. I'm gonna ask more tastefully this time, Councilwoman Burris. I think you got on to me last time before I asked it. What if we have a situation where we have several council members who, for whatever reason, illness or otherwise, are unable to serve or come to council for an extended period of time? I think last time I may have thrown out a little bit more morbid scenario.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I'm trying to think, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it was, I think the last time was a little bit morbid. I said,
Everybody died.
yeah. I think it was hit by a bus or something. But in that case, where, you know, for whatever reason, they may intend on continuing to serve at some point.
Right.
They just may not be able to attend council meetings for an extended period of time. Essentially, that could put all business at halt until they are able to return. So how do we get around that?
Don't all get on the same bus at the same time.
Or the same plane.
What if all 4 of us female members were on maternity leave at the same?
Oh, that means Jesus must have came. That might be another.
Any person sitting there like,
Put my name
Buy a
on the
lottery
list,
ticket.
the Valley of Moccasin Beach.
Right.
I'm on maternity leave.
But I hear
So
what you're saying.
perhaps it's a, cross that bridge when we come to it, it's.
Yeah.
It's cross a bridge when you come to it. I still think as a body of individuals, y'all need to make sure you're doing thing where it is a majority of the body that goes forward on any point, if you can on here. If you can't do that and it gets voted down, it gets voted down. That's the way that would occur. But if someone is out because of some type of long-term injury or long-term illness here in connection with that, their voting electorate that put them in office, at least they've got some authority through recall if they need to, if they're gonna be out for a longer period of time on there. If there's an issue where a person just can't attend the meeting, we could at least try to work out something potentially as some type of, appearance on video, since your meetings are all streamed. That's another option that you could look at that point in time, something to make it easier for someone who is incapacitated for a period of time. Still think you need to have a majority of your group be able to make a decision on matters that are important for the whole city.
Okay.
Vice Chairwoman Mullin.
Okay, so
And
I
then
was,
Councilman
I was
Henderson.
gonna say, you know, in this day and age with, all the electronics and videos that we have, the person might not be able to come physically, but mentally, they are definitely there today. They can handle whatever it is. It could be a broken leg or a hip, or I'm not throwing it out there for nobody to get it, so, you know, but I'm just saying, you could do it that way, because right now, I mean, the way it runs now, the majority that's here makes the decision, right?
Yes, ma'am. And that's something you can think about, at least in your rules. Do you want to allow appearance by a remote individual if they're ill or something in that regard? You can cross that bridge when you get to it if you want to.
Okay. Councilman Henderson?
So, I mean, that's really sort of I would classify it as a catastrophic event. Something similar to what we experienced during COVID, which at that time, we were doing,
Everything.
the Zoom. But now I think it would have to be, to do a live stream or to join by Zoom, I think it has to be permitted by Tennessee state law.
Yes.
I think right now we have to be in person, once the pandemic
Ended.
ended, and then they ended that. But to say that, they could certainly enact it again. And like I said, really, kind of your scenario is sort of a catastrophic, I would consider catastrophic event. And so I'm sure at that point, there could be some measures taken that would allow for some other measure.
Councilman Harvey?
If that's a real concern, could we put in a emergency powers clause of some sort, emergency in case of pandemic, whatever, some sort of emergency, catastrophic last resort type thing to reference?
The emergency power provision in the state law goes to the mayor.
Yeah.
Usually on there, so the mayor can do that and
Mayor could
authorize that to
declare a state of
Okay,
emergency.
so we have we
It's
have
already
it
in
within the
place.
law, we have it covered.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily need to be in our rules.
No.
Well, I guess what I'm more saying is, in the case of, okay, say, all right, if the mayor declares a state of emergency or whatever, council will meet via Zoom, council, person will meet in Zoom if they can't make, 4 meetings in a row due to medical, something like that, basically to address your concern. That makes sense?
Go ahead.
I don't, I'm not living and dying off of this one. I think it's just one of those things of how do we handle it if it does come up?
Right.
And, I think we have a safety net monetarily. The mayor's office has emergency purchasing power. If they need to purchase things in emergency for whatever reason we cannot meet. One thing that, and Councilman Henderson's correct, is a catastrophic event. That, just preparing for what's the worst to come. But in that case, I know we all understand we can't just meet virtually. But if we get to a point where we need to change the rules, but we don't even have enough votes to change the rules, we're stuck with the rules as they are. And so that's the only thing, Lord forbid we ever have to encounter this. It's just what type of loopholes or breathing room do we give ourselves just in case worse comes to worse?
I'd like to add, like Cody, you throughout the 4 meetings, for example, I jest about all 4 of us females being on maternity leave. I don't think any of us are signing up for maternity leave.
No.
Anytime or other. Again, however, what I wanna be mindful of is making service possible.
Yes.
And, a 12-week maternity leave is very reasonable.
Absolutely.
Maternity leave for consideration, as is, for a hip replacement or some major medical thing. So I want us to be sensitive to that and not
Sure.
walk us into something that makes it more difficult to serve the people
Yes.
when you've been duly elected.
Absolutely.
So, council, might I get a suggestion from the body on if we want to consider any type of emergency type language, or if we want to sit on this for a little bit, a level of guidance on how we guys want to move forward with it. Councilman Burrs.
I suggest that we move forward with it. I'm not sure if there's anything else to discuss, and I like the idea of referencing maybe emergency procedures. If there's already something in place, then going ahead and referencing that so we know where to look.
Okay.
In the event that we're unable to vote in person, then we will request of the mayor, maybe whoever's authority it is to request of the mayor some emergency procedure to allow us to do a virtual or something along those lines.
Phil, will you get us some draft language
will.
on that, please? Council, does that feel like a good consensus point? Okay, so we've got a lot of head shakes. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next up, HR committee, that was an idea brought to us by Councilman Clark. Councilman Clark, would you like to say anything about that for our discussion?
Yeah, I think at the time that the recommendation came into place, we were discussing, I think we were discussing some HR-related issues regarding some changes in, someone please help me with the terminology, the reversion pay. Like, for instance, if you had civil service protection and you stepped down in a role. And I think there's some current language that we're considering around that. Anyway, so.
HR is working on
Right,
that.
and so I wanted to give some context to how that came into play, because we used to have an HR committee. As a matter of fact, my predecessor, Councilman Russell Gilbert, chaired the HR committee, and it was used as a kind of a ombudsman's process for city workers when they come to us with HR issues that are not handled in the framework of the executive branch. I know Councilman Elliott had at one point discussed, what was the board that you talked about?
Civil service.
A civil service board. So anyway, so I'm just wondering, council, if it's we oftentimes get HR complaints about HR from different, yeah, it's the truth. And I'm just wondering, how do we create some type of opportunity or policy to where, as we used to hear those cases, I know that at some point some people consider it a slippery slope to get involved in those HR matters, but I'm wondering if we should resurrect this process and maybe create some more guardrails or some more standard operating procedures when city employees come to us with complaints that we have to then talk to the administration about. I don't know, we don't have any processes in place that I'm aware of as a new council person, so maybe creating an HR committee will help us create those frameworks. I'd be curious to hear some thoughts about that. And then Mandy, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that if you don't mind. Thank you.
Councilman Harvey.
Yeah, my first question is more for Phil. What is the council's role when it comes to HR?
The executive branch is in charge of the employees here that work for the city on that end of it. So that normally falls under the mayor in that regard. So that's the way it's set up in charge.
Okay.
And within the ag, there are checks and
Procedures.
balances and procedures for that.
Yes, and those ag provisions come before you, and y'all adopt those provisions by resolution here. And that's in the quasi judicial authority that this body has to try to protect the employees here from adverse actions of the administration.
Okay. So other than the egg, is there a procedure where an employee who was disgruntled or didn't get, felt like they were not heard, is there a procedure where they come to us at all?
Yes.
I mean, they can talk to their individual council member at any
Okay.
point in time on there, because they're a resident of the city of Chattanooga.
But I guess his question is there a written procedure, like if they're going through the procedural steps in the employee, what's the I stand for, the employee information guide?
Yes,
If they're going through those steps outlined in the EIG, his question is there a procedure beyond that involves council for us to intervene if that employee has a grievance or feel like that process has failed?
no, the grievance process is in the egg here to go through that body on there, and then there's an administrative appeal if there is some concern about their grievance isn't heard correctly, and that goes to an outside body that this body has chosen, the
Okay.
administrative hearing officer for the state. So
Oh,
they-
okay.
Gotcha, that answers, yeah.
Well, Councilwoman Dotley.
I'll yield to Councilman Elliott then if you can come back to it.
Okay, Councilman Dotley,
So-
then Councilwoman.
To add layers to that, according to the EIG, if somebody, and I believe it's termination, if someone is terminated, they have 10 days to file an appeal with our clerk, Nicole.
Correct.
And that then triggers council to send this to administrative hearing officer. No, administrative law judge.
Yeah, what's
Is
an
it
ALJ?
Administrative law judge.
Okay, okay,
ALJ, formerly, council used to serve as that hearing body. It did not used to go to ALJ.
Okay.
Council would hear all appeals, but now it goes to ALJ.
Yes.
So we are part of the appeal process, to answer your question.
okay.
But 10 days after termination.
Yeah,
But only in termination matters,
Correct.
not
Yeah.
in grievances.
no,
Unless,
Well,
Mandy.
it's actually worked on demotions, I know that, because we've had appeals of demotions in the police department that go to an ALJ, and ALJ resolves those. So it's-
Yeah, so I would say it's
But-
appropriate when you're, like I'm gonna link back to like collective bargaining. So if you're affecting someone's pay, their status, or their job security, it could potentially move to an appeal. But a grievance is like, I don't like the process that was used, and so that goes and stops at the, step 3, I think it is, on the grievance, sorry, I don't have it in front of me, and that goes before the CHRO or their designee, and it's a committee that hears the grievance review committee, that hears the grievance to make a decision. So we generally pick, like, when it's somebody, if it's a police officer, we pick people from fire because they understand the sworn concept, and so we have somebody from leadership from fire sitting on that committee to help make the decision.
Thank you. Councilman Donley?
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you, Councilman Elliott, for a little bit more clarity. I think that answered a little bit of what I was going to ask, but, and Phil stated, that's really an executive function. We are the legislative body. So I like being a part of, I mean, it's okay to be a part of the appeal process, but even that, in the way that previous councils have turned that into, that just goes up to the, administrative law judge, because
Yes.
it's almost out of the scope of what we are supposed to be doing. So I don't, and we're gonna hear it anyway. I mean, if somebody get mad, they can email us, talk to us, whatever. And my course of action has always been to send it back to, send it back to the people that manage it. So I think that, I don't think we should get at HR matters, because we don't do this every day. I don't go and talk to, I'm not over in public works, or I'm not in departments every day. I'm out doing something else. So I think that, for me, just HR committee is not something that I think the council should take a hold to. And even in our previous, in the term before this, there was an HR committee that never really met. We never met, nothing ever came up. It was just kind of a sitting committee. So, I don't know, that's just my opinion on it. It's just, they elected, they got a mayor, they got a staff, by all means, handle it. And if they want to appeal it, and they go through the appeals process, and this council has decided they didn't want to be the judge or whatever hearing body, decided to send it on to an administrative law judge, that's fine with me. So, that's just my thoughts on it.
I would agree with you, Councilwoman. I think we have plenty of other work on our plates, and I personally like the idea of an administrative law judge who knows how to look at all of that, and I don't want to get involved in sunshine law, et cetera. Phil?
I was just gonna give you I was a history major, in case you haven't learned that to this point. And the history of all this and in law goes together in that regard, because in 1990, there was a change in the form of government. And before that change in form of government, there were departments that actually ran different groups in the city. So the Public Works Department was a commissioner. The person who ran the public utilities departments for the city was a commissioner as well. The mayor ran the buildings here in City Hall and the employees that were going back and forth. So that was the way the form of government was set up initially. And that went away whenever we had a change in district representation here, and a legislative district was created to enable the people within the areas here in the city to be able to vote for y'all. And that's how that came forward at that point in time. And the quasi judicial functions that were available were those vestiges from the earlier time. And they found while they were doing that, there was an issue if more than one council member wanted to fight another council member to get on the panel to be able to help an employee, that was a little bit of an issue there. So that's why the administrative law judge process was developed here. And it's worked quite well for the state on here, and they have procedures where they hear this all over the state of Tennessee whenever they deal with those issues. So that's a little bit of the history that was involved in that process.
Thank you for the context.
Yes.
Okay, do you have any other
Yeah.
questions, Councilman Elliott?
I think the only thing I would add, outside of discipline, I think we should consider the oversight we have, just like every other department. You know, outside of discipline, they also are responsible for so many other things. And fun fact, HR doesn't do discipline here. I think that's where a lot of people are misunderstood. Am I wrong?
I didn't hear what you said, HR doesn't what?
Discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's something that a lot of people are confused by. They help walk our managers through the disciplinary and EIG process. They themselves do not pass down discipline. But, you know, they're doing everything from benefits to leave to EIG policies. So that could be a position where we provide some type of council oversight, because many of those policies we would have to consider. That's just food for thought for us to consider in the future.
Okay, thank you very much, council. Great conversation. So may I suggest that we table the thought of adding an HR committee for now, and we keep an eye on it, and then as we grow together as a council and revisit it when the time is appropriate?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay, public comment procedure. Councilwoman Burrs, could you talk us through the thought for this?
Yeah, I guess it was about a month ago, and at this point, I really don't remember what the group was there for, but we had a lot of students that were at our council meeting.
I think it was ICE.
Was it ICE? Okay, was it ICE? Okay, yeah, we've moved on, right? We haven't moved on, but we have. Okay.
Tragedy.
Yeah. And it brought to my attention, is there a necessity for some sort of procedure when especially when large groups of people are here to speak to the council on a topic, that we collect information when they come in and ask them to sign in and say, you know, this is what I plan to talk about, that I'm here for this particular topic. Because what it did was, and then, of course, the criticism that we received, whether it was right or wrong, I'm not saying it was right, was that we didn't acknowledge those folks and we didn't give them the opportunity to speak. And the following week, Chairwoman Hill did such a great job of then educating the public on what the procedure is. We're not trying to ignore people while they're here. This is what our process is, and we welcome your comments, but there's a time and a place for it. And I noticed that, say for instance, when you go to a beer board meeting, you have to sign in that you're here, you're there for a particular reason. Is there any benefit to have people sign in when they come in they don't have to say necessarily what they're there to speak about, but if we see that there's 15 people that are there to speak to the council, at least that gives the opportunity to the chair to say, I see where there's 15 people here tonight to speak to the council on various topics. We don't even need to know the topic. I just want to remind you what the procedure is. We have an agenda, here's our timeline, this is when you'll have opportunity to speak. So people could leave and come back, or at least we don't come across as ignoring them. So things have seemed to settle down now. It may have just been kind of like, at that moment, it seemed like a good opportunity to do something. So I thought I'd bring it forward to see if there's any interest in establishing some sort of system.
And Phil, could you
Yes.
add if we have any limitations on something like that?
Yeah, the General Assembly passed a new law, 844-112 in 2024 here, and that is in effect right now at this point. And it says that y'all can put reasonable restrictions on the period for public comment, which is what we do, the time, manner, and place of 3 minutes in that regard, such as the length of the period, the number of speakers, and the length of time that each speaker will be allowed to provide comment. And you can require a person to give notice in advance of the desire to offer comments at a meeting. And you can take all practical steps to ensure that opposing viewpoints are represented fairly. So other governmental bodies do have that and require people to actually sign up on what they're going to talk about on there, and then allow those people to be able to be presenting their issue to the council if you want to do that in that regard. I know that the folks in Memphis actually have a sergeant of arms who enforces that. So they have a person that actually requires them to do that outside, to sign up. In Memphis, it's pretty bizarre. They actually require them to include a comment card that has to have their home address involved. And if they want to speak, they have to show that they do actually live there in Memphis to be able to talk. And they have to provide their name on the record to state their address whenever they do that. And if they're falsifying their address and just coming in from abroad to speak on that, they can be prohibited from speaking again. So that was interesting to see that. Catherine was printing me off a copy of that today. They are limited over there to 2 minutes and can't speak on more than 2 agenda items, and no one can yield time to allow people to just keep on going. So the time, manner, and place type restrictions are things that are well recognized within the First Amendment to the Constitution. So that's why we try to do that.
So I think what Councilwoman Burrs was bringing was trying to add a greater measure of dignity and responsiveness to the public. So it sounds as though we have many options that we could, if this body was interested in, tighten up. But that was not the intent of the conversation.
No,
It's really more to give people an opportunity to communicate with us in advance of the meeting, so that the chair would be able just to acknowledge, we understand, we have a lot of people here tonight that are concerned about X topic. Please know we're here to listen to you, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and if I could add another comment to that is, you know, as I say it out loud, I don't even think we need to necessarily know what the topic is. I think just knowing that my name is Jenny Burrs, and I plan to speak during public comment, because then I don't want people to be discouraged for coming and speaking out. I mean, I don't, you know, with the exception of one person, there's rarely been anything that's been inappropriate, even though we might not like the topic, or it may just be, you know, why are you telling us this? But at the same time, it gives people a forum. So I don't want to, so I think if we just say, hey, if you plan to speak tonight, just please sign in. And it could be as simply as, I see that we have about 15 people here tonight. And it could even be right before the recess, because it gives people a chance to come in. Somebody hands you a note that says, we've had 15 people. In this case, it would be you until the next chair, but I see where we have about 15 people here to speak. I just want to make you aware of what our schedule's going to be and when you can expect to, you know, can't tell you exactly what time, but I want to make sure you understand we're not blowing you off in a nice, you know, however you want to put it.
You need to have a time when they can do that, and you need to have a cutoff time of when they can do that if you do it on their petition.
But if
And then
we
how
do
does that
that,
get to you?
it could be voluntary, right? I mean,
Yes.
I think because this is a move toward we don't want people to be discouraged, so it feels to me like it's a little bit more casual at this point. It's not a requirement that you have to sign in, but if you want to sign in, so people know, we all know you were here,
It's a form of
you
public
can.
participation.
It's a communication tool, not as much a order maintaining tool. Like I wouldn't see that with this, that the chair would be like, well, we only have 15 people and you're number 16, so no go. I don't think that's the intent at all. I think it's trying to be more welcoming. Councilwoman Dotley, followed by Councilman Henderson.
And actually my question is directed toward Councilman Henderson. Before, yeah, right, I saw your hand up and I thought, that's the person I want to
Okay, I'll
ask.
put my hand down.
So when, before I got on council, I used to watch it online because y'all were virtual.
Yeah.
And so you used to call out the people's names, like it's such and such an online, because everybody was virtual. So then, so you all had to sign up, y'all had to sign in or sign up process, because y'all just called names. Sometimes people wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But y'all would call their name, and for me just listening, it made me feel like, oh, they know their name, or at least, you know, it's just a way of kind of connecting or whatever, you know, connecting with those people. So what was your process? I know it was electronic, but what was y'all's process of getting people to sign up? Do you remember? Or Nicole?
Well,
I remember.
that would be a Ken Smith question
Oh,
or answer.
that's
because
right, because he was a tech person. That's
He
right.
was a tech person, but you could submit your name and you would be in that queue.
Right.
To raise your hand. Deputy Ledford? I wanted to call you Councilman Ledford.
That's right.
You are correct, but that was strictly while we were during COVID.
Yes,
Online.
yeah.
That was not integrated into a live meeting.
Right.
Oh, okay, so.
It was your way, because otherwise I wouldn't know if you wanted to speak or not, unless you had submitted.
Right.
Because So the 9 councilmen, well, 9 and Phil was on the screen,
Yes.
Yeah.
and then everybody else just had to
You had to submit a
their
request,
name.
yeah.
And it was just so that we could then push a button and bring them in.
Okay.
It wasn't for, like, well, I guess it was permission to speak, but that's the way the forum made us do it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that does. Okay.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have known who wanted to speak or not.
Right, right. And I think that's kind of, in a sense, I think it's good because then you're calling a person's name, or if it's just a 15, 15, we know it, you can explain to people, or if it's a name, piece where you're saying, hey, such a, in order how they got it on the list, or something like that. I don't know. But I just think I think it'll be good. I just always liked it because I felt like y'all were calling the person's name.
Yeah.
And that just made, it kind of pulls you into a place where you feel like you're a part of the meeting and don't feel like you're just this outsider standing out waiting to say something.
So there was a little, in fact, I think it was called a waiting room that you were placed in.
Okay.
And so I would have to tell Councilman Smith, bring,
Such a
whoever out of the waiting room so that they could then comment.
So they were submitted prior to the meeting?
I think they could submit it during the meeting,
Okay, okay.
even during the meeting. Where's Nicole? I think maybe it was prior to the meeting, correct? You had to submit, if you wanted to speak prior to the meeting, and then you created a list? It seems like somehow you were involved
That makes sense.
prior to the meeting.
Blocked it.
She's got the whole experience out. Okay.
That was what, 5 years ago?
5 years ago,
But I think it was prior.
6 years
I
ago.
think there was a link. A lot of this is coming back now. I think
Okay.
there was a link that you, prior to the meeting, had to submit a request to be added into the waiting room.
Okay.
And then when we got to the end of the meeting, we would call you out of the waiting room.
Okay, that works, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman.
And did you have other,
Well, I did. I guess,
and then we'll have Harvey after.
it sounds like maybe, it was really a matter of communication. They didn't understand that they would have to wait till the end. Right. To simplify things, and a lot of times, when I chaired, I would always say, please make sure your cell phone's on silent. We could also include, if you're here to speak,
Here's our process.
here's our process. Regardless of, we can pretty much look out there and tell if people are here to speak. And to me, I just, I'm simple. I like to keep things as simple as I can. If we just make an announcement before we really get started with the meeting, letting people know, here's our process. If you want to speak, we're gonna take a brief recess and then we'll come back. That at least, that sort of speaks to them without speaking to them personally or individually. And then without them having to sign a piece of paper, because I don't want people to think that you got to sign a piece of paper in order to speak, because I don't know how many times I have heard somebody get up there and say, I really wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but and look, and we wanna encourage everybody to speak, so maybe, just consider, maybe we have a little announcement at the very beginning, turn your cell phones off, and if you're here to speak, you can do it after we return from recess.
I have to say, I had a lot of trouble with cell phones except for one, it seems like on the far right.
Well, I know one member has trouble, one member has trouble with their iPad.
Cell phone and.
The hallway's for.
The iPad does not seem to wanna work with me.
Can you see me telling me?
Councilman
Yeah, I think first, my first question would be,
Close it, stomp on it, and it's still talking.
I wouldn't want to deny someone who hadn't signed up to
Right,
be able to speak.
Absolutely.
So that was my first thing, and how would we enforce that? But the second thing is, I like what Councilwoman Dotley did during the budget hearings, and you said 1 hour. How many ever people get through that is that's what it is. But you have an hour, and so I don't know. Should we consider, if we do recognize that there's a larger crowd and we recognize that there is a topic that the public wants to speak on, do we consider moving that up in the agenda? Instead of the last thing, do it the first thing, set it for 45 minutes, set it for an hour, and then the public feels like they've been heard, they can leave, and then we can continue the business of the council.
You know, I can remember the county commission setting up something like what Phil was describing as within the law to say, we're gonna have this much time, there'll be 30 minutes for this view and 30 minutes for this view, and then kind of decide amongst yourselves who's gonna take that time. Is that something, Phil, that we would be able to enact on an ad hoc basis?
You can, it is allowed, it's better if you have just a procedure in place, if there's a special issue coming up, I would do it for that.
So
But it's
perhaps-
clearly allowed in the statute.
I would remind people that we have had a 2 AM meeting before.
That's what I'm saying, set a time.
Because the council didn't wanna set a time limit,
Yeah.
and so,
Well,
Here we go.
and that's always the council's.
that was a long night.
Well, I think that speaks to the culture of this council, being willing to stay,
And a
happy to
group wanted to
stay,
defund the
happy
police,
to
and they
use
got
loosely, happy to stay until everyone is heard. But
that was when
it
we
does
were
seem like it could make sense as we're looking at the other emergency elements on the council rules,
Yes.
to consider adding in our public comment, just going ahead and identifying the fact that this is something that we may do as necessary for special topics of interest for the
Okay.
community.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Vice Chairwoman Noel, followed by Councilman Elliott.
Okay, so in the past, it has been, if there is a large group, most of the time, they do have one spokesperson. Even though that, sometimes they might wanna ask them to stand and let them know, but they do have one person that come up. I know when we were doing, whatever it was, I can't remember the exact thing, when you were chair, Councilwoman Dottley, that there was several times that there was very large groups, but they did have a spokesperson.
Senior Center
Yeah.
folks, I think have done that, yeah.
Yeah, they just show up. Okay.
Councilman Elliott?
To Councilman Harvey's point, I would recommend that instead of us changing the rules, leaving that at the discretion of the chair. Or we always have the ability to motion to suspend the rules and move things around accordingly. So if we ever see a large contingent, any of us can motion to suspend the rules to move public comment to the top. And then we just go it that way, instead of having to change our rules, we can just keep that in the back of our mind and do it on a as-need basis.
It's the 3:30 meeting. instead of
It's, you
after
can do
three.
it anytime. And if you have a longer comment period, just like what Councilwoman Dolly did, the chair can put a time limit on there. Like technically, the chair can put a time limit on anybody speaking. And so that's just something we can keep in the back of our mind for whoever's sharing.
So point of feedback on that, and why I think it would be useful to have some language in here related to just what we are able to do, and like the things where we reference the emergency powers, that kind of thing. I find that when I write something down, it gives me permission to forget it, so to speak, because, as one of the challenges, I think, of a 9-member democratically elected body is that, it's one of our advantages that we continually have a change in leadership, but because of that, we don't always have procedures written down the way, or depth of knowledge, because it changes, and so, like, if this is all there, then when the next chair comes in, all these questions are answered, and they don't have to be another phone call. I think it doesn't limit or extend power, it just writes it down, which can be really useful just for answering questions. Councilwoman
Real
Brooks?
quick, just because I know we need to wrap this up and move on. I appreciate the conversation, and I love the idea of just better communication. I think that could solve
Yep.
the biggest issue, and if it's coming from the chair, then I think that's a great idea. I'm not necessarily in favor of changing a policy, but just being more responsive to the folks that come here and making sure that they feel included and part of the process.
Okay.
And how it's structured for them to be included,
Yeah.
And that they are heard.
that they are
Right.
heard, yes.
That's the main
Yeah.
thing,
I
yeah.
think that speaks to those values that we identified. Okay, so our final topic for today, or no, not our final topic, we have 2 more topics. Councilman Elliott has potentially brought some thoughts on the council policy position.
I'm gonna make this very brief. I have heard from a lot of folks. Chairwoman Hill gave me her thoughts as well. I do need to get yours.
Yeah, I've got them written down. I'll.
Okay, if you can send me those, and I would like to send a final draft of this, and I would like to go ahead and move forward with putting this to a vote in the next couple weeks via resolution. And so I'll compile all of those changes and throw out my final proposal for all of us to consider. And the reason I'm ready to move forward, we've been talking about this one for a better part of a year, and it's time to land a plane or
Okay.
park it permanently. It's one or the other, so.
Okay, so when would you like everybody to get their feedback to you so that you can move forward? You want it by the end of this week?
Really by tomorrow.
By tomorrow? Fair enough.
Because I've asked folks for
Right.
a couple
Okay.
weeks now.
All right, so if you have any feedback that you'd like him to consider for a resolution that is yours wholly, that you can do this as you see fit, please get it to Councilman Elliott by the end of the day tomorrow, and we will expect to to get that on the agenda, the 3-week agenda.
3 weeks.
Yeah, we could do it on the, do you want it on the 2-week, or you want it on future considerations?
Just put 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, council rules code of ethics. First, want to thank Councilwoman Dotley for raising her hand and saying, hey, you want me to look into this? And I said, I love working with Councilwoman Dotley. It was wonderful for her to volunteer. So take it away, ma'am, because the ethics complaints were something that came up. Go for it.
Yeah, so it's something that, in the spirit of kind of tightening up our council rules, having things written down, it was recommended by our wonderful city attorney that we add something similar to our rules regarding complaints against council members, simply because council members do not fall under the employee information guide. We fall under a code of ethics, which is a higher standard. So all I've done here is went to our charter, because it's already in the charter, because the people have already decided what they would like to see. And so all this is coming directly out of our charter. I kind of outlined the process a little different, and complaints against council member, because in our charter it has employees and officials, but then council members have a separate complaint process. So all this is outlining that process based on what's already in our charter. So basically the process is, council member is outlined in the city charter, and I got you chapter 2, article 8, section 2, 761B. Is that right, Peter?
Yes,
I be on
ma'am.
it. I be on this legalese.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, so basically, it outlines that it will be a presentation to the council, and that will come from our city attorney, who is our chief ethics officer. They have to present the complaint at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the city council. Initial review and vote. We come into play because, again, we don't fall under the EIG. So after hearing the nature of the complaint, we have to decide as a majority vote, and I get all 9 have to be here, or, as a majority vote to determine one of 3 outcomes. The complaint has merit, it doesn't have merit, or it needs further investigation. So we have to determine that amongst ourselves in a public meeting. If we decide it needs further investigation, then the majority council has to vote on if it warrants further investigation. The council will authorize an investigation to be conducted either by our chief ethics officer, which is Phil, or by an outside entity, because we do have contracts with other law firms. Now, that's on our side of it. The requirements for filing a complaint from someone on the outside, from a employee, and that goes for anybody, whereas employee of the city, a constituent, to initiate that process, they have to submit it within 90 days of the alleged violation. The complaint must be in a written, I'm just reading it because I just want to make sure I'm reading it out loud. Format, the complaint must be in writing, signed by the complainant, and notarized. Required contents, it must include the complainant's legal name and current mailing address, the names of the officials involved, a summary of the facts, and an explanation of why those facts constitute an ethics violation. Good faith, complaints must be filed with a good faith basis. Anyone filing a false complaint will be subject to penalties of perjury, and if they need help filling out the complaint form, they can contact our chief ethics officer, or designee is permitted to help them. So that is what our charter outlines, and and as Madam Chair said, we just want to, this is just a matter of adding it to our council rules so it is transparent, people can see it, and they can understand that we too can be complained on. We are Chattanoogans as well. We have a code of ethics and the manner of behavior that we should have. And so people also have a recourse to say, hey, I believe this council member has violated code of ethics by whatever they feel, yes.
One question to you, Phil,
Yes,
with
ma'am.
this, and thank you again, Councilwoman, is the way that I understand this is that every officially filed complaint would end up being presented in public to council. Is that the case, or is there any space for initial review by the chief ethics officer to determine if the complaint is a legitimate ethics violation?
Well, if I am reviewing it as the chief ethics officer here, I would normally review that. There is an ethics committee that is involved as well, which is me and the chief finance officer, and I believe it's Mr. Sewell.
Yeah, it is, or either the chair of city council or the
Okay,
mayor,
so-
something
so
like
there is
that.
something-
It's 3 people that are the review committee.
And then if the review committee determines it is an actual violation, then it or
Permit-
Would
yeah.
come
then
to
it
the
comes in
council.
front of the
So
council.
we'll add that part to the,
Okay, because
Correct.
I think, I'm probably not alone in the concern that especially like as election season rolls around, we wouldn't want this to be used as either, a weapon against, an elected leader,
Don't let it roll too
or,
quick.
what's that?
Don't let it roll too quick. We
Don't let
just
it-
got out of one.
no, that's right.
But as a weapon against a
Yes.
council member for doing their job,
Right,
or something that becomes overly onerous because we don't want frivolous, our CFO, our city attorney, and our auditor spending significant amounts of time on frivolous.
Correct.
I mean, real, 100%, and I know we want to be as transparent as possible, not subjective. Councilman Clark, you had your hand raised, I think?
Oh, no.
No, took it down. Councilman Harvey, followed by Councilman Elliott.
Okay, so say we go through all this and there's a serious complaint and the council finds it has merit, what's the penalty for a council member?
Penalty for a council member is it coming out in the public meeting in that regard there. And if there is some sort of, I guess, criminal violation, then there's potentially criminal prosecution. If there's some sort of violation of your oath of office that you had, then that's subject to ouster proceedings.
Okay.
And then also a public censure, but that's just kind of like a merit badge that you have onerously earned.
Rather not have that if you.
You're right, right.
Okay.
Okay, Councilman Elliott.
Councilman Harvey asked most of my questions, well, you answered most of my questions. But ouster proceedings,
Yes.
we can oust another council person?
No,
What
only
is
the
that?
courts can oust a person.
so we will send
that's-
it over to Chancery Court.
File an action in court, and the court would have to make a determination, is there a violation?
And that's only if it's criminal.
Well, it can be a civil violation too as well. Remember, residency.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause-
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
But this is
Well.
a very serious process that.
I mean, Chip,
Tell you
You're
what,
stuck with me.
residency cases are about as clear as mud.
So it doesn't take 5 of us to remove Chip, basically.
That is not allowed.
that is right.
Only the people that put me in here can
That's,
take
let
me
me,
out.
that's right, that's
Heard
right,
it said.
that's right,
No, you left
Okay.
out one.
yes.
One major person.
God makes it
God.
Oh, there
Left it out.
So, Madam Chair,
down. Yes, ma'am.
so for this, I can go back and add a couple of pieces to it,
You want
included.
Phil just to do it?
Yes,
I
oh,
would
okay,
be glad to
well,
do
thank you,
that.
Phil.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you got this?
You've carried the water.
I got
Yes,
it.
oh, well, thank you, Phil, what you talking about, okay, all
I got
right.
a point of clarity about this. So if it's enshrined in our charter, is this just
This is
something
putting it-
redundant we're doing to put into our,
Our rules,
I
so
guess
we
for
don't have to
visibility
remember.
purposes, someone was researching or?
Well, so
I'm just
that,
trying to
you
figure out
know,
what the
when
purpose
when
of
any
the
one of us as a council member is looking at our rule book, the more clarity it can have within it, the fewer questions people.
But it's the
we
same
as a-
thing in our charter, right? Is that-
Correct.
Right,
but-
that's correct, yes.
Yeah, and the same thing with, special powers is something that's in state law. The public comment piece is something that's in state law, but just, these are questions that have been asked, now we write it down, we've got it all in one place. So that people don't have to go all over the place, and so it'll just say pursuant to, et cetera, this is, you know,
And y'all had to adopt these codes of ethics here because the state of Tennessee required you to do so. And that's one of the requirements for public officials in the state, that they comply with this code of ethics as well as city employees.
So really, with all three of these topics related to the rules, none of them really change any powers that exist. They don't add to or take away from anything. They just acknowledge, here's the question we've had, let's write them down in this one document so we have fewer places to look. So, let's see, thank you all so much for this great discussion and your thoughtfulness. Councilman Henderson, I believe you had one other item?
Yeah. So in preparation for America's 250th birthday, there's a little celebration committee that's formed, and one of the things that they've done is they're making up some quarter-inch Liberty Bells. Oh, cool. We have one right now that is behind the sign shop down here in Onion Bottom that can be brought up here if the council has no objections to us displaying it here on the council yard.
Sounds great.
I think it would be us participating in the celebration.
That's great.
If we're good with that.
That's awesome.
Okay, all right.
How did one get on the party planning committee for
I
the
know.
250th birthday? That is cool.
That is cool. Are you on it?
I'm not on it, but if, are we?
No, I have plenty to do, but I just thought if you were on a party planning committee.
You don't want me planning a party.
All right, Councilman.
There would be no beer, no, I mean, you know.
I just want to commend Councilman Henderson on his proper use of his iPad.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
All right. Anybody else have any announcements? Okay, thanks, everybody. I'll see you at 3:30.
Now it's fine.